Sure.
Okay, let's now start the introduction while waiting for everybody to come in. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Richard Wee from Richard Wee Chambers, and here with us today, my good friend. We worked together on a few projects before the days before crypto. Mr. David Lau from LUNO. Welcome aboard, David. And together with me today, assisting me is my colleague, Ms. Wong Ziying. LUNO, as you know, is one of the licensed digital asset operator, together with 3 other companies, and they have been blazing the trail for crypto trading over the last few years. So well done to you, David. Today's session is live on Facebook. Those who are on Facebook, hello. Thank you for following us here. We will be taking some of the questions and answers at the end of the session, and my colleague will be checking on Facebook later to see what are the Q&As there, if any. Our session today will be like this. For the next, say, 5-10 minutes, we cannot assume everybody here, David, knows cryptos and digital assets and these issues of blockchain, even the good old blockchain. Imagine now blockchain feels so old. You know, yeah. So we would like to have a quick one, like what is a crypto? What is NFT? What is blockchain? And maybe can explain this concept of decentralized financing, which I think will take us about 10 to 15 minutes. After that, our interview will be like this. I will interview David about what do you mean by regulating these assets? How do you regulate cryptos? Who regulates it? What are the laws regulating it? Of course, as a lawyer, we know the answer, but we will have a dialogue with David on that. After that, we'll talk about the legality. Is it legal? So we know now, for example, crypto is acknowledged as legal in Malaysia. Then we need to deal with the extent of legality. How far can it go? Can it be used like what's happening in El Salvador now, where crypto can be used as a currency, you buy and sell. You can go McDonald's and buy with crypto. Next one, interestingly, I want to discuss about this, David. Tax. How much tax? Who pay tax? Why pay tax? Tax. And LHDN would you be surprised? They are here now. Some of the LHDN people will be here. Whatever it is, we should give a general overview on tax. And last but not least, I want to discuss about LUNO's plans. What is LUNO going to do in future? Now, this session is actually not recorded, by the way, because I think we should have a general discussion, but it will be permanently on Facebook. So anybody later want to see this video can go to Facebook and watch there. Okay, right? So without further ado, number one, I would like to ask David to introduce himself, and then of course ask David about the 4 areas of crypto, NFT, blockchains, and decentralized finance. David, all yours, David.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me here. So for some of you who may not know me, I'm David. I'm the LUNO General Manager for Southeast Asia's business. So just so you know, LUNO, is a platform that allows anyone to sign up, put some money, and trade cryptocurrencies that's approved by the regulators. LUNO is also available not just in Malaysia, it's also available in Singapore, Indonesia, Australia, and hopefully in the next 1 year, a couple of more countries within Southeast Asia. So that's the gist of LUNO. If you've never purchased cryptocurrencies before, I will obviously recommend my own company as one of for you to check it out. We also provide a lot of learning materials on our website, www.luno.com, for you to read as well, right, before you put your hands into the basket. So that's a quick introduction from myself. I think just before we go deep into the regulation piece, I'll just give a very layman explanation of what is a blockchain, what is a cryptocurrency, and maybe give a little bit of idea about what is DeFi, which is one of the hot buzzwords, in Malaysia right now, as well as globally, as well as NFT. You've probably seen a lot of these terminology on Twitter a lot for the past 6 months. So I'll give a little bit of explanation and understanding on that. So what is cryptocurrency? Before we go into that, I think it's important to first understand what is a blockchain, right? The layman way of understanding blockchain, it's a online ledger that records transactions, right? It's as simple as that, right? It can actually record more than just transaction. It can record any sort of data as well. But the most popular way of using the blockchain is to record financial transactions. But unlike a simple online ledger, like for example, your Google Excel sheet or even Microsoft Excel sheet that you share over emails, the blockchain, the transaction is actually recorded and validated by a group of individuals. And anyone with computing power can lend their computers to also perform the work of recording and validating these financial transactions. So such method of sharing the work of recording the ledger, validating the information, as well as storing that information is done by these guys who are called miners, right? It's just a unique terminology. Don't get confused with you taking a jungle and mining some gold. That's not what it means. It just means the work of validating information and recording information on the blockchain. So the uniqueness of the blockchain technology that allows anyone to participate and store information has given rise to its first real use case, which is cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency, simply put, is a form of, in my definition, a digital asset and an asset class. But the first cryptocurrency was actually created as a form of alternative money. So what happened is in year 2009, there was an anonymous founder. Some speculate that it's a group of developers. They actually created a blockchain called the Bitcoin blockchain. And they designed it in a way where they said that it can actually replace the function of money or provide a good alternative to the function of money without the use of any centralized authorities.
Can I sorry David, can I request everybody to switch on or to put yourself mute, please? It will ease the discussion, the flow of discussion. I'll be very much obliged if we can, everybody, I repeat, put mute on your button, please. Yeah, all yours, David. Sorry, David, all yours.
Thanks for muting. We want to have a good discussion here. So back on to the Bitcoin blockchain, it was created as an alternative means of money. And the value proposition that they have touted it to be is that you can use it to store and transfer the value of money to anywhere around the world without going through a central authority, right? And the benefit to obviously in their value in their argument is by not relying on a central authority, your transaction can be cheap, fast, and efficient, right? That was all the way back in 2009. But they also designed cryptocurrency by ensuring that they want to hedge it against inflation. So as a result, what they do is they only design the Bitcoin to be created through the Bitcoin blockchain system and release that amount of crypto when the work of validation is done, right? So they allowed anyone to come together to plug their computer into the Bitcoin blockchain, who's willing to lend their computing power. And if there is a transaction between two Bitcoin wallets, that transaction will actually be recorded and validated by anyone who's willing to plug their computers into the Bitcoin blockchain and become a miner. And as a result of that, by lending your computer power, you actually get rewarded in Bitcoin, new Bitcoin created by the system. And the supply of the Bitcoin that is rewarded for the miners who lend their computing powers is fixed, but the total supply reduces every 4 years. So essentially what they're saying is, if you lend me your computing power to record and validate financial transactions by two Bitcoin wallet owners who's transferring the value of Bitcoin to one another, we will then reward you with new Bitcoin that we create through our system. And to make sure that your work becomes valuable over time, we will also cut the supply of the Bitcoin that we reward to you over the next, until the whole entire Bitcoin reward is given out. So cryptocurrency's first use case came from the Bitcoin. And subsequently, because of the function of cryptocurrency where you can actually code it, it has allowed people to test with new use cases. So there's new cryptocurrencies being created for a long time. In fact, even right now, there's new cryptocurrencies being created that provides different value proposition. But of the top ones, the most popular one is actually Ethereum. Ethereum, a cryptocurrency that not just want to provide that value of being the store of value as well as the medium of transfer, they also want to be able to allow people to automate financial transactions the way you want it to be, right? They've introduced a new function called smart contract, which basically means you can execute financial transactions based on a predetermined set of conditions. For example, I can code it in my smart contract on the Ethereum blockchain, whereby I say, okay, every morning, 9 a.m., I want to send 1 Ether to Richard Wee, into Richard Wee's Ethereum wallet, right? I can code it as such where it's automated so that I don't actually have to go into my computer to basically perform that manual transfer myself. With the smart contract, I can automate the entire financial transactions to Richard Wee until I decide to pause it or end it. So that's one use case. There's another new use case that came out that's become extremely popular in the world of cryptocurrency. And as a result, when this technology has evolved and upgraded over time, it's also created a lot of new use cases like decentralized finance, as well as NFT, or what we call the non-fungible token. I'm going to pause there just to give some time back to Richard. Is there anything missing, or do I need to continue?
Oh no, I think you're on the right track, bro. Just I'm taking notes. I'm listening here as usual. It's good to refresh your memory how it came about. Go on. I think you've already explained Bitcoin and all that. What next? What is a decentralized finance, and what is your take on NFT so far?
Sure. So let me just explain what is decentralized finance. Now, decentralized finance is, or sometimes they call it DeFi, is just basically an umbrella term for blockchain applications that provides financial services that does not rely on any intermediary, right? So as I explained before, if you use Bitcoin or the blockchain to perform transactions, you don't need a central authority or any intermediary. You rely on a lot of different people's computing power to perform transactions. Now for DeFi, it's a similar concept, but they've taken the use case of cryptocurrency to another level up, where they want to not just provide that function of transferring value, they also want to provide new financial services such as lending, such as exchanging of assets, any cryptocurrencies, for example, and they want to be able to enable it automatically without the use of any central authority. So the most popular use case of a DeFi, a decentralized finance, is basically a decentralized exchange, for example. And that's highly popular. So what decentralized exchange means is there is a platform that people create. For example, one of the largest one is called Uniswap. You can just Google it online. You can plug your cryptocurrency wallet into Uniswap, and you can exchange your cryptocurrency with another cryptocurrency that's listed on the platform without the need of going through a central authority, right? How does that differ with platform like LUNO? LUNO is actually a centralized exchange whereby we have both buyers and sellers putting their cryptocurrency with us, and we will actually do the work of exchanging the cryptocurrency. So in that sense, we still are the middle party that enables the exchange of cryptocurrencies. But a website like Uniswap, who is a decentralized exchange, they will basically automate that trading through smart contract, and you don't need to go through a central party like LUNO to automate those exchange. So that's just one aspect and one example of decentralized finance. Another popular example of decentralized finance is lending, as I mentioned earlier. And what happens is, in a traditional finance system, right? If you want to borrow or lend money, you have to go to a bank, right? Bank performs the due diligence, credit check. They perform all sorts of things they need to perform as a banker. And then they will do the work of borrowing and lending on behalf of two consumers, whether it's retail or business, right? But in the world of cryptocurrency, programmers have actually very creatively used the smart contract and code the smart contract in a way where they enable both borrowers and lenders to perform that action of borrowing and lending without a middle party. So it's as easy as you going to, let's say, a platform that provides such services, put maybe, one Ethereum, onto the platform. If you want to lend some money out, and then and on the other side, if a borrower wants to borrow money, he will actually, stake or put some of his assets as a collateral. He can then lend that one Ethereum out automatically by programming codes without the need to go through any central party, right? And in exchange, obviously, there's still returns, there's still interest that's being charged, and it incentivizes lenders to take their unused cryptocurrency, put it into the smart contract in order to generate some interest and make some money on the side. So that's basically another good example of DeFi, which is highly popular right now. But having said that, I just want to qualify, technology is still very new. So while it has scaled tremendously, it's still whether it can scale to millions of people using it is still another question altogether. Then there's another new form of application of cryptocurrency, which is called NFT.
Yeah.
In long form, it's called Non-Fungible Token. What it means is that it's actually a cryptocurrency, but rather than pegging that cryptocurrency against an actual value like ringgit or US dollars or whatever value that the issuer of the cryptocurrency gives it, it's actually pegged to represent digital art, usually digital art, right? And one NFT that's created that's pegged against a digital art cannot be exchanged easily with another digital art. So for example, if you have a beautiful painting that you have at home, right, that you want to sell, rather than printing the painting out on a piece of paper and then going to, let's say, a shopping mall to try and sell it, what is happening in cryptocurrency world space right now is people are actually creating that original copy of that painting, either in a PDF format or a JPEG file format. They will then peg it to a cryptocurrency to represent its value and sell it online to anyone who's willing to pay in cryptocurrency. So that's basically NFT, right? The new hype where people just basically trying to create their own art. It can be music, it can be books, it can be it can be so many different things that's hard to value, and then sell it on the blockchain in order to make some income. So that's NFT in essence. Richard.
Thanks, David. Yeah, thanks. In fact, I think NFT is the current hot item at the moment, other than DeFi, of course. And then I actually, the funny thing is, David, when you were talking about this, because I actually watched our webinar, which we had last night. I watched it again, and I feel like a lot of it's deja vu, except you are going in more details. I suspect you and I probably, or you, have to do this talk over and over again for many years to come. Okay, but it was a good start. So ladies and gentlemen, especially those who just logged on, thank you for joining us. Today we have David Lau from LUNO, who's sharing with us, number one, he just finished what is the basic knowledge about blockchain, NFTs, how crypto come about. I love the story how Bitcoin was created. And of course, he discussed about Ethereum and how the exchange take place. Then he ended by talking about NFTs just now. And moving on, we will be discussing about the regulation, the legality, and maybe some tax issues. What do you know about it? I know you're not a tax expert, David. I think everybody here must be fair to David. He's not a tax lawyer. He's not a tax accountant. But maybe he can share with us what he's seen so far. Now, what we intend to do, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of this session, maybe about, say, 3 o'clock. So we keep about half an hour, 3 to 3:30 or more, Q&A for us to ask. So you can put your questions below. You can see there's a chat box below. Feel free to put in your comment there. Then we will go through one by one. whichever which we feel we can tackle, we will go through it. So for now, hold your horses. Let David finish him explaining first. But maybe about 4 o'clock, sorry, about 3 o'clock, you boleh lah mula bantai all your question at the chat box there later. Now, moving on from there, David, I think you and I both are legally trained. You are a lawyer. Many people don't realize actually you're a lawyer. How do you see, okay, we know cryptos are being regulated. No problem. It's being regulated by, I think it's the Security Commission. And of course, there's always Bank Negara behind the scene. But generally now, since last year until now, what have you seen pertaining the regulation of cryptos and maybe even this decentralized financing, DeFi, you know, and of course, NFT? What is your view on that so far?
Sure. So maybe I'll give a bit of introduction of how regulation came about. A lot of people always ask, right, when is cryptocurrency a security in Malaysia? When is it a security? And I think it's a very legitimate question. So regulation for cryptocurrency actually started, or discussion started in 2018 with Bank Negara implementing money laundering rules for cryptocurrency businesses. That was a Sector 6 policy that was published in February 2018. And then fast forward, you know, government, especially represented by the Securities Commission, decided to regulate cryptocurrency businesses because their interest is in protecting investors' interests, make sure that these guys are well protected against, you know, any irresponsible crypto businesses. So they have actually published what we call a prescription order. Right, it's a long name. It's called the Capital Markets and Services Prescription of Securities for Digital Currency and Digital Token Order in 2019. You can just go to the SC website to read it. But essentially what that does is that it, for the first time, it defines when a digital currency or a digital token or a cryptocurrency can be defined as a security, right? So they've actually listed down 2 sets of requirements of when crypto is considered a security. Now, for the purpose of this discussion, I'll just go through the first most relevant requirement. The SC actually said for crypto to be defined as security, it must first be traded in a place or a facility which offers to the exchange, such as buy, sell, or trading of cryptocurrency. The person who buys the cryptocurrency must expect a return, whether in the form of appreciation or income derived from it. And obviously, the crypto must not be issued or guaranteed by any government bodies. So for as long as any cryptocurrency meets these 3 criteria, it will be construed as a security. And there will be securities regulation that the owner of the cryptocurrency or even the operator that enables the exchange that will have to comply, right? And because of
sorry. Hi everybody. Can I again request that you please place your mute button on, and if possible, you switch off your video first. Sorry about that, David. And I know some of you may accidentally switch it on. So I have to constantly say this. So I apologize that I have to interject in this way. I repeat, please put your microphone on mute and switch off your video. Terima kasih, terima kasih. All yours, David. All yours. You were about to discuss. Yeah. Okay. Go on.
Thanks for muting. So, so as a result of this prescription order that categorize when a crypto becomes a security, as a result of that, the SC published a guideline, what they call the Guidelines of Recognized Market, that sets out the requirements of what a cryptocurrency exchange like LUNO, who wants to operate in Malaysia, has to do in order to operate in Malaysia, right? After that, subsequently, the SC issued a new guideline. It's called the Digital Asset Guideline that further tries to regulate 2 aspects of the cryptocurrency activity. The first is when you want to use cryptocurrency to raise funds, they call it the IEO guideline. So if you want to raise funds with cryptocurrency, that guideline will stipulate what are the requirements that an issuer of a new cryptocurrency will have to comply. And obviously you have to go to the SC to prove that you fulfill all these requirements before you can do so in Malaysia. Then the next set of thing that they covered on is on Custodial Wallet, right? They set out requirements for if you want to hold another Malaysian cryptocurrency in custody or in trust, what are the requirements that you have to comply with, in order to operate and provide a custodial service to Malaysians. So these few key regulations that's put in place is really geared towards ensuring that if any Malaysians is investing or storing cryptocurrency with a third party, their regulators have sufficient view to ensure that these guys do their part to make sure that you're not scammed. So that's basically the spirit of that regulation. So and coming on to now, how does that affect new innovations like DeFi, like NFT? At this point in time, it's still a little bit unclear because, again, from my own personal interpretation, don't take my words for it as to represent what the SE said, but from where I understand it, the regulation that was crafted back in 2019 and 2020, we're really looking to these few key areas. For example, how do we make sure that exchanges like LUNO do their part? How do we make sure that custodial wallet like LUNO do their part? How do we make sure that IO operators who wants to raise funds do their part to not scam Malaysians? These are the three key areas that look at only. They have not yet given any clarification on how it affects new innovation like NFT or things like DeFi, for example, at this point in time. But having said that, we have our own interpretation of it, which we can maybe touch on a little bit later. So that's basically the overview of how cryptocurrency regulations has come about. And I'm very sure that in the next 1 year, there'll be more regulations that will come, really to try and see how they can protect Malaysians, investors' interests on cryptocurrency as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we have to accept and agree that such a new, especially it being a digital asset and has the character of something which can barter trade. We can barter trade using this asset, has to be regulated, whether we like it or not. And I like how, David, the first thing you mentioned about regulation was Bank Negara's AMLA. Yes. Because with respect to everybody here, this cryptocurrency is a perfect money laundering protocol. It's so easy to launder money, and the kind of damage that can be done to our country's economy in the long term, if it's not regulated, will be far-reaching. So I support the regulation, but at the same time, I also don't feel regulation should be so tight to the point where we can't grow, where genuine investors cannot develop. So I think that is a struggle that both Bank Negara and security commissions are going through, and it is not an easy balance to strike. I put a hats off to those people in the two organizations trying to balance the right. But no, moving from there, David, so we now know that lebih kurang lah, that is a regulation for crypto. But there's no regulation for NFTs yet, isn't it, at the moment? And is there any rules pertaining to decentralized financing yet? I don't think so, right?
I would say that the prescription order in 2019
applies to DeFi.
Is wide enough in definition that the Securities Commission can use to regulate NFT, because for as long as NFT is traded on a platform, and if the person expects a return from buying the NFT, then again, it's very subjective, but then it can be argued that it can fall under security law in Malaysia. I
see.
But having said that, personal opinion, I think it's unlikely that the regulators will regulate NFT, because at the end of it, it's the intention that matters, right? Is an NFT creator creating a product or an instrument for people to invest, to treat as an investment? Or are they just selling a digital art for them to basically sell like any other art that they sell, offline, right? If you look from that perspective, I don't think SC would want to, make people go to them and say, hey, I need approval, to sell my digital art through the blockchain, right? Yeah. I don't think SC want that, because it defeats, that's not where they're looking at. At the end of the day, they're looking at investors not so much of art creators, but if an NFT creator, and a responsible one, for example, position it as a form of investment, right? They say, oh, buy my digital art, my own drawing of David Beckham or Kobe Bryant, for example. I guarantee you that you can sell one in 1 year time for 10,000% in increase in value, right? Then I think the SC might look into this more seriously. So I guess the short answer is the SC can do it if they want to. The laws allow them to do so, but they'll probably examine the intention of this activity before deciding whether they want to do it or not.
Yep, I understand, and I can appreciate the angle you're coming from. There's only so much they can be regulated, especially when the market is so fluid. NFT is still very fluid and very slippery to hold on to. You can't hold on to it yet. But anyway, the same was said about crypto 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Now it's we can see some semblance of regulation across the world, and we'll discuss more about this as we go along. So now we've discussed about regulation, how to regulate decentralized financing, blockchains. Of course, blockchains it's been around for quite some time now, but cryptos and NFTs. Very interesting to hear that you say that. But from your perspective, before we move to legality issues, from your perspective, from LUNO, have you been approached by any government agencies to maybe give any input pertaining to regulation of the DeFis and NFTs?
Not at the moment. There are some coffee shop discussion on it's more of us asking regulators, hey, what do you think about NFT? What do you think about DeFi? It's really still being considered, but I think that ultimately, even for us as a business, for something that just came onto the market, even though it's very, very hot, billions has been poured or millions has been poured into new technology, we would still be cautious to make sure that it's not a momentary hype, because the last thing we want to do is to look into it now and then 6 months down the line, the whole hype just basically dies off, right? Because we know there's a lot of hot money everywhere. So I think from our perspective, is really just a wait and see approach, similar to regulators, I suspect.
Yeah, and like I said, the way you speak was exactly how it was in 2018, when people was first approaching the issue of Bitcoins and all the other cryptos on what to do, etc., etc. Okay, are you there, David?
Yes.
I lost you suddenly. Another camera, one gentleman's name, Azyani, appeared. Okay, now I see a very interesting points raised up in the chat box. Thank you so much. Some of course offering a constructive comments. Some of your comments clearly are very upset over something. Well, this is freedom of speech, but always remember, freedom of speech comes with accountability. You can say something, but you need to also back up what you say. But I suppose we'll discuss this later. Some of it are discussing about LUNO. David, I see some challenging questions for LUNO to answer later, but we'll get to that later. Thank you so much for participating in the chat box, ladies and gentlemen. Now, legality. So if you talk about regulation, we know cryptos are legal. Maybe you and I can just have a quick discussion. So there's a crypto case, ladies and gentlemen, in the High Court of Malaya, where David's company had to initiate an action against, I believe now should be a former customer, over certain misplace of, I'm trying to be polite in the words, misplace of cryptos, and some cryptos accidentally went to a wrong person. Correct? David, I'm just being very polite in the way I described. So long story short, LUNO sued to us back for the crypto and won. But what was interesting was the High Court described these cryptos as an asset within the Contracts Act. It fell within the Contract Act, which effectively gave a character, gave a an identity, even to some extent an entity to what is then crypto. So that was the first case, isn't it, David?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's an interesting case. It's one of the things that I had to pick up when I joined LUNO. So there was a case like this. It's in fact, I think, I mean, it's public news lah, so I won't sugarcoat it. It's the case is LUNO versus Robert. Basically, we have, by some computer mistakes, we've accidentally given the guy additional 11.3 Bitcoin by mistake, and we had to contact him immediately to recover that sum. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. He got he withdrew 11.3. He got double that amount. He took that crypto out of the LUNO wallet and into other exchanges, and then spend it lah. So we had to ask for that crypto back, and he obviously wasn't that friendly. He didn't want to, and as a result, we have to take the matter to court. This even after trying to negotiate for a settlement, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. He didn't want to, and we had to take him to the court to recover those sum. So what's interesting is the timing of the case happened when regulators are being put in place by regulators at the same time. But in our case, the good thing is that the judge has very open-minded, decided to say that crypto is a thing by law. So to give a sense of why that's important, right? Robert's argument is basically saying LUNO can't recover those funds from me because it's not recognized as a thing in law. There's no such thing. That's what he's saying. There's no such thing. So why are you claiming from me for, right?
Yeah.
Crypto is not recognized at all. Right. Then and we obviously had to propose our counter argument to that. And we said that, look, crypto is a thing. It's recognized legally, whether as an asset or a commodity or money, whichever applicable law in Malaysia that makes sense. And obviously, as a result, we managed to put our case forward. And the judge decided that it is a thing, right? Because there will be cases where there's a mistaken transfer. In cases where, for example, I accidentally gave Richard as a friend additional crypto, right? I need to have a legal avenue for me to recover those funds. So this has created a good precedent whereby if you have accidentally given crypto to someone else for some mistakes, then you have a right to claim that crypto back. So that's the gist of the entire case lah.
Yeah, interesting. In fact, many people don't realize that you cannot sue to recover something if there's something is not a thing. So, for example, if I want to recover a trade brand, simple thing, trade brand is not something you can hold. It's a intellectual property is something created. What do you call this? Conceptually, it only exists in your mind. So, if you want to protect your brand, this is your brand registered. If it's not registered, then too bad. There's no brand. You can't protect something you don't have. So yeah, so that case was very interesting, and well done to the judge. Had it gone the other way, we may have some legal challenges how to deal with this if the court said no. But then again, it would be very strange because all the courts all over the world acknowledge cryptos as an entity which can be traded, right? On that point, maybe we can go to the interesting case. This was not scripted, by the way, David. I just thought of it because I mentioned the country earlier. I remember reading El Salvador, right? El Salvador, that now apparently a crypto can be used as if it's a currency. So I can go and buy McDonald's, example, and burgers with a Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever crypto I have. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. That was the headline news. Very unusual, if you ask me. But that's the decision that government took. They decided that crypto is a legal tender. So if you go there, you can actually use your crypto to pay for a burger over McDonald's, which is interesting.
Yeah. So I do wonder, honestly, between us, I know there's about 60 old people in this room, but between you and me, I'm thinking, right, how are we going to legally solve all the challenges when it comes to money? People don't realize we take money for granted. I go McDonald's, 5 ringgit, yada yada. But actually, that's because there is an inherent acceptance that the money is valid, it's not fake, it's accepted, there's value, yada yada yada. So if I go to a counter to acquire something using my crypto in El Salvador, what is the process to verify, to confirm? And somebody here in the chat box just mentioned that the value of crypto is up and down. So
Yes.
today, one crypto can buy you 10 burgers. Tomorrow, can't even buy a French fries, for example. How do I'm quite intrigued with what's happening in El Salvador. I've been trying to find more information about El Salvador, but it's not sufficient for me to come up with a legal opinion. How do you deal with it?
Yeah.
So
no, I agree, right? When I saw the news, I was very perplexed. I mean, I'm a believer, but should crypto be a legal tender? That's really much up for debates, right? I personally, like, I think some commentators have commented, right? The value is not fixed. How can it function as a money like ringgit, right? Which don't even talk about the law, I talk about the practicality aspect of it. It just doesn't make sense. But having said that, there are cryptocurrencies that are created and pegged to the actual fiat dollars. That's what they call the stablecoin. And I didn't mention this just now, but stablecoin is also another like big new use case for cryptocurrency. It's not new in per se, but because it's been created for some years, but it's still new to the world, whereby there are private organizations that created cryptocurrencies that is pegged 1-to-1 to the US dollars. For example, Tether Foundation, right? Tether Foundation created a crypto called USDT. It's not USD, so don't confuse. It's called USDT. It's a unique name. And they claim that they've created, I forgot what the exact number is, just spewing off my head. But I think it's about like 100 million or 1 billion worth of supply of USDT. They claim that in their bank account, they really have this money and it's pegged 1-to-1, sitting in cash. And it can be used, for transaction because the price is stable, right? So there are lots of argument or lobbyists, right? Who's trying to lobby to have government to recognize those cryptocurrencies as legal tender, by saying that those values are 1-to-1, it's pegged to the fiat, so you shouldn't worry about the price volatility, right? But having said that, ultimately, again, there's a lot of things that I think a government need to consider. I don't know what was in the mind of El Salvador. Again, I have not done enough reading on that. Love to travel to El Salvador one day to figure out what's going on. Probably materialize such adoption, right? But just on top of my head, even as an exchanger, if today, you let's say a private company or even a public-private company form a joint venture together to create 1 billion worth of ringgit, right? How do you materialize and how do you make it practical? Because the moment you declare a cryptocurrency as a legal tender, financial institutions are actually the guys who are the most impacted, because they will first have to figure out how to accept that cryptocurrency, right?
Correct.
Now, if you talk to those guys in financial institutions, the level of awareness of cryptocurrency is still very low. So if you go to them and you say, hey, Maybank, please accept MYRT, for example, right? Like maybe like, what's that?
Yeah.
Maybe not what's that. They probably know cryptocurrency well enough, but they'll be like, okay, how do I accept it? And how do I marry it to the existing financial system? And that's a big challenge for banks, right? At the moment, it doesn't make sense. On top of that, there's also potential of disrupting our country's financial ecosystem, right? Because bank business model thrive on accepting ringgit deposit in order for them to provide lending and credit services. Now, if that materializes, then that may actually impact that business to the point where if, let's say, 1 million Malaysians started, instead of using the ringgit, they started pivoting into a cryptocurrency. That takes cash away from the bank.
Yep.
And that's one bank. You're talking about like the entire country's banking system.
Yeah.
That makes it more expensive. They have to increase the rate because they have to remain sustainable. That increases the rate. And it actually impairs people all the way on the ground who's relying on the bank as a facility to basically generate economic activities.
Yes.
There's a lot of these things that comes to the picture, and when I think about those challenges, I just can't imagine how El Salvador tries to solve all these things, right? Because these are legitimate questions.
Correct. I agree. See, simple things like bank loans will be affected. Very simple things like I give you a bank loan, 1 million ringgit, and then at the same time next door there's one person giving a crypto loan of 1 million ringgit. How do you manage that? And then because whereas the ringgit is far more stable every day, it's more or less that value. Yeah, sometimes we go down and sometimes go up against US dollars, but that's more or less the value. Whereas Bitcoin today, it's just very, very volatile, very dangerous for the economy. Of course, good for the quick buck investor, but surely the system cannot be built for that small group of quick buck investor. What about the rest of the 30 million people who may be affected? So my personal view is that if you're going to ever convert crypto and become a legal tender in Malaysia, I would say be more than caution. Be very, very, very cautious before we go that path. You know what, David, I suspect, right? Once you take that path, it's a path of no return, you can't come back, I don't know how El Salvador is going to come back when people are so ingrained into cryptos and the money go up and down, up and down, up and down. Today, crypto, El Salvador is a $10 trillion nation. Tomorrow, El Salvador dropped to $10 billion nation. How dangerous is that for the country, So anyway.
It means not just that, right? I mean, just to add on some points on that, right? Actually, Bank Negara has came out with a statement. In fact, they are amending, if I'm not mistaken, the Currency Act. I just don't know when it's going to go to Parliament, but basically to say that only the central bank can issue
I read about that. Yes.
So there was a statement, right? Bank Negara has said that crypto is not a legal tender. A lot of people confuse that as to say, oh, crypto is illegal. It's not.
It's not.
Something that's
legal.
Legal tender doesn't mean it's illegal. It just means that the banks have no legal obligation to accept cryptocurrency as a way to repay your loan, right? Your car loan or your house loan, right? So that's the statement that Bank Negara came about with. Something that's very interesting that just came out on the news. I didn't mention it. Just literally came out a few days ago. So despite obviously the downside of private companies issuing their own stable coins, Bank Negara it was a press release between Bank Negara, the MES in Singapore, South African Central Bank, as well as the Australian Central Bank, coming together to experiment using cryptocurrency to do remittance, right? They want to find out if
interesting.
be faster to facilitate remittance through the use of cryptocurrency. The official terminology is called CBDC, central bank backed digital currency, if I'm not mistaken, right? CBDC, right? Can you just Google it? So there is while the cryptocurrency has disrupted a lot of different, provided a lot of new means of investing and financial services, even the central bank themselves are looking to innovate, right? To see if there's a real use case. Not just a real use case, but is it scalable? Is it what it says it is? Can I provide such facility to millions of my citizens? And it's being piloted by all these key central authorities. So which is pretty good to see.
Interesting. Well, that's something maybe we'll discuss 1 year from now. We'll wait and see how that develops. And in the meantime, I suppose better be cautious if we are going to go that path. I want to point about the legal tender. This is how I explain to my clients, David, that if you want to negotiate settlement with your other party, you want to give your car and the other party accept, then that's okay. But it doesn't mean your car can go to the bank and say, I want to use my car to pay my housing loan. Cannot. So two different things. First one is a barter system, not the barter roti, barter system. And the other one is you want to go to the bank to clear your loan, you must give them cash. So that's how I explain to people the difference. And okay, now moving on, we so excited. So 2:50 already. And don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, we can continue this discussion all the way until 3:30 or more. Let's talk about tax. Very interesting. There have been now recently, even my law firm, we wrote a short article on paying tax for cryptos and paying tax for NFTs. And there is a the issue of how do you sort out tax? You know, for example, David, we have this real property gains tax when you buy and sell properties. So for simplicity, let's say we buy a house and we make profit, we sell. So we pay tax for it when you fall within RPGT, real property gains tax. What about cryptos and all this? What have you understand so far, David, about tax? All yours?
Yeah. So when is a crypto gain taxable? When do you have to pay tax for a crypto gain, right? I think ultimately that's the question. Actually, the LHDN has issued a statement to provide clarifications. So what the LHDN basically say, I'm paraphrasing what they said. They say that if the transaction is an investment, you're not buying and selling cryptocurrency as a means of income, then it's treated as a capital gain, and capital gains are not taxable in Malaysia. So an example to that is if today you buy Bitcoin or any cryptocurrencies in Malaysia, you sell it 3 months or 1 month down the line for a 5% or a 10% gain, your 5 to 10% gain is not taxable because that's a capital gain. But on the other hand, if you are a trader, if you buy and sell cryptocurrency as a way of living, where you can generate consistent income, and there's it's systematic, it's planned, then that is treated as an income tax, right? So an example to that would be if I'm a trader, I do chart analysis, I do price prediction, and on a month-to-month, day-to-day, I manage to make like 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 ringgit consistently. Then I have to pay income tax for those gains. If you're a miner, which means you buy computer, you plug into one of the cryptocurrencies blockchain, you provide computing power for them to validate and record the transactions, and you earn cryptocurrency as a reward. It's also a business activity, right? That also is subject to income tax. So that's kind of how you split it lah. If you're an investor, don't have to worry about it. But if you generate and derive active income, then you definitely have to pay taxes for it.
Well, David, if I can just give an extra input, I'm not a tax lawyer, so I'm not going to try and BS my way here. One thing about these areas, if you don't know, don't BS. Don't simply mislead people. But I understand under Section 3 of the Income Tax Act, Section 3 is very, very, very open, and it does indicate that crypto probably can be taxed. But especially in the description that you gave, that someone whose daily business is trading cryptos, definitely may kena lah tax. But people who buy 1 off, 2 off, 3 off, it's just a personal trade off. You may escape tax. But what I understand so far for tax, ladies and gentlemen, is that it is still a case-to-case basis. I have not seen a prominent case appearing even in the under the tax journal. And when I discuss with my friends in tax, they say, yeah, got people kena. But when I hear them describing to me, David, it is like 2 different cases with 2 different scenarios, but both got tax. And there's no correlation to these 2, for example. So I wonder what was the test which income tax used to test. So I can't go into detail because my friend discussed with me in privacy the cases that he is going through with his clients. So it's not right for me to discuss that. The person could be here in this room. But the point being is that when I was trying to understand when it triggers the income tax rule, David, there's no clear crossing line, when do you cross the Rubicon, so per se, right? So certain areas, like for example, in Malaysia, you earn certain salary above 2,500 ringgit a month, you cross the Rubicon, you now pay tax. But you earn 2,000 ringgit a month, 1,800 ringgit, you don't pay tax. You haven't crossed the Rubicon. But crypto, macam mana? And NFT worse. But NFT, as you know, David, some big profit, 6-figure profit from one NFT. So there's a huge profit. Surely, I suspect it will trigger something in income tax, isn't it?
I think for NFT, again, it comes back to the energy of is it a frequent income, right? Is it planned? Is it systematic? If you are an NFT creator creating artwork, if you're selling it, then I think, again, my interpretation is the existing law applies, like any other business activities that you perform. Once your revenue hits a certain threshold, or once you make a gain, then you have to pay taxes according to the right category. That is the way. But if you're just a one-off guy, literally spend 30 minutes creating an artwork, suddenly for some reason it sells for like $1,000, and you have no plans to do it again, or you couldn't emulate that process, it's not repeatable, then I think there is an argument there to say that you don't have to pay for tax. But again, my conventional advice will always be to speak to tax lawyers.
Always check. Checks.
Lawyers will always be there, regardless of change of time. But if you drive income, then you should pay taxes.
From where you're sitting at LUNO, have you subject to privacy and data privacy and secrecy of your customers? Have you observed anything about tax? Any of your customers come to you and say, "Ayo, David, I cannot tax lah." Is there such a conversation subject to whether what you can share with us lah?
Yeah.
Have you heard?
I can share that we have traders who are actually trading on our platform that pay taxes. They do that. We obviously get queries from that. We will always defer and say, "Hey, speak to your tax consultant or your lawyer." But I think if you go to the LHDN website, it's quite clear lah. So it's not something that we comment on, but I can tell you that we have clients who are traders and they pay taxes, right? But as to investors, one-off investors or long-term investors, right? They don't, right? Because LHDN is also quite clear that if you're an investor, that's not a capital gain, right? Capital gains is not taxable in Malaysia.
In fact, I can share with you a small point, David. Today is not about me, it's actually about LUNO. But on our firm, where even though I am very a novice when it comes to tax, but we still need to advise tax, especially my work for sports and esports. When they ask, people ask me before, so if you go to Hong Kong and win it. Can we put on mute, please, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you. Sorry, So I was just saying, some of my clients asked me, if I go to Hong Kong and win a tournament, $100,000 US, do I pay tax? So actually the answer is yes. The answer is yes, especially if you bring the money back. So what I always advise clients, even now my recent cryptos and digital asset clients, they ask me about tax. I said, you have to go and check. Don't avoid paying tax. If you avoid, the moment they come after you, I have cases, David, a client of mine, I can't mention the name, apparently allegedly didn't pay tax in 1995. I wasn't even a lawyer yet, in 1995. And my client was saying, I don't even have the documents anymore. So the LHDN raised that. They had to negotiate. So as usual, the rule is to pay first. Then we had to fight the case in court, fought the case for years. Then eventually the court said, I know LHDN was slightly wrong, but we still have to pay tax. So there you go, and they will track. And especially cryptos are all online. It's so easy to track. So I would advise everybody to just be more careful when it comes to tax.
It will always come bite you back in the ass if you don't. Better be safe than sorry.
Correct. We have some people who are some of the participants say that have commented that my tax knowledge is not up to par. Yes, no problem. I have no problem. We are not experts in everything. And then we have Mr. Ramesh here said, come and see him. I would love to go and meet him one day. He's a retired partner from the Big Four. Well done. So we do very careful when it comes to tax issues, and better to be careful than be careless. Okay, moving on. Last part, LUNO. So, what are your plans for LUNO? The plans for LUNO for the next few months? Can you imagine 8 months of 2021 have disappeared? We're not going to get it back. Half of us have been stuck at home half the time. I have not had teh tarik outside a restaurant for many, many months. I forgot how it feels like already. So what about LUNO? Are you planning anything for next week you want to share with us?
At the moment, a lot of things are still in planning phase. So I can't really do too much of what we're planning to roll out, obviously because we're a regulated business. So we need to seek approval from regulators. Even when it comes to listing new tokens, right? We always have to seek for approval from regulators. So I can't say too much about that. But having said that, I think most of our efforts is still centered around education, right? So for example, this is a good example, right? Speaking to you, trying to drive more awareness, with the public. We constantly reach out to companies to offer them to do a basic crypto 101. So our focus next 6 months is really a lot about education. But what we want to do more is to touch on other cities, not just focus on Klang Valley. So we want to go to cities like Penang. We want to go to Melaka. We want to go to Kuching and KK as well, to try to really engage with people on the ground, and if possible, again, provide the basic know-how on cryptocurrency. We're not going to obviously hard sell crypto. We're definitely going to give them a good understanding and the risks that's associated with cryptocurrency as well. We don't sugarcoat things. But what we hope to achieve is that in the next 1 year, if people were to talk about cryptocurrency, they at least know the basics of crypto and the risks associated with it, right? So that they'll be better informed, because cryptocurrency is very risky, right? Invest today, it goes up 5%. Tomorrow, it goes down 10% the next day. We always perpetuate a long-term approach to investment, and that's what we try to perpetuate throughout Malaysia as well.
Yeah, I think to me, I think Malaysian favorite words is to say I think. In my view, because this area is new, not just education, David, actually the expansion of development, knowledge development, educating someone is just to teach, then you need to develop the thinking, because I think people involved in this industry, there are many layers. Some are effectively experts. They eat, breathe, sleep cryptos and NFTs. They know the things like this. But there's always some newbie, somebody who just stepped in yesterday and learning new things. So because people have so many difference in knowledge, it takes time to get everyone know the same thing. So I think what you're doing is good. But maybe LUNO can also do a series of workshops. Maybe a mini workshop where you can even impose a small fee. I suppose people don't mind signing on for a workshop, like how to do this, how to do that. And we have some questions here which I will address with you shortly. That how to tokenize situation, yada yada. So also maybe somebody else would like to open their version of LUNO. Maybe they want to get guidance from you. I don't think you can do a workshop for that, but actually that is another area, interesting area to discuss, right? So I hope LUNO will continue expanding, and not just LUNO, even your so-called rivals like Tokenize, Synergy, and you mentioned earlier there's a new one called MX Global, right?
MX Global. Yeah.
MX Global, yeah.
It just got approval, and it just launched recently.
So I hope the four of you, the four entities, companies, not just do trading and be the platform for trading, but try your best to educate and expand knowledge. CPD, basically CPD. Professional development. Okay. That aside, of course, as we go along during Q&A, please feel free, David, to say what you want to mention about LUNO. I think many people also want to know where LUNO is heading. You have come a long way. Are you going to, let's say, I asked just now, are you going to do a platform for NFT? A just NFT only? Are you, I don't know, something you may want to consider, right? Trading NFTs, any plans?
On NFT, no plans at the moment. But because as I mentioned just now, we know what's going on globally. A lot of new money being poured there. Millions, in fact. We have no plans currently in Malaysia at the very least. I think our focus is still on the mass market. And when our mandate is to introduce LUNO to the mass market, we want to make sure that we don't overly introduce things that haven't been tested through the test of times, right? I think that's important. Right? Obviously, that will mean us losing lots of good revenues just by adding a lot of different new sexy things into LUNO Malaysia app. But I think it's better for us to be careful. Being a regulated business, our app is not just used by traders who want to cash out in ringgit. It's also being used by people on the ground, like the makcik or pakcik in the second tier cities, and small towns, right? They are still struggling to understand what Ethereum is. It's a lot of work to try and get them up to a decent level of knowledge and understanding. So to then suddenly add things like NFT is it's not great lah. It won't be great, and we wouldn't want to sit in our conscience that these guys are just going to dump their money without understanding what they're buying. That's our position, and I think a lot of other approved exchanges also, they are very careful because being a regulated business, we have a duty lah. We have a social responsibility to make sure that we do things at the right way, the right time.
Good. Now let's I like to hear that, but we will continue to see the growth of this area led by companies like LUNO. Now let's see some questions. Here's some really interesting questions. I saw earlier. Okay, there's a comment from Stan Lim. Thank you for the question, Stan Lim. If LUNO want to introduce or list new token on LUNO, what is the process and how long would it take? I knew this is going to come up. So that's why I before I could create a question, someone asked it. I saw it. So Stan's question, I repeat, it was very early on. At the timestamp is 2:27 p.m. The question asked by Stan is, I repeat, if LUNO want to introduce or list new tokens, the Richard V token, right? What is the process and how long would it take? David?
So that's a very good question. A lot of people are actually quite curious about it, right? It's an internal process between us and regulators, but even internally within our company, we first have a coin listing criteria that obviously only we know, we don't publish it. But as an overall, before we consider listing a token, we actually look at things like, who are the founders, what are the issuers, are they legitimate? What is the token supply, which is important because we wouldn't want to list a token whereby the majority of the token supply is owned by a single entity or a group of people, right? Because the risk is, if let's say Richard Week created is your own token, right? It's widely used around the world, but 80% or 60% is owned by Richard Week itself. Today, price is at what, $4 trading, and Richard Week can just basically dump 30-40% of that token on the market and tank the whole market down, right?
Yeah.
So these are the things that we consider, and I think these are the things that the regulators consider. Whether that token distribution is truly decentralized, so that the risk of pump and dump is a lot less. We also look at the technology aspects, the use case of the tokens. Does it have actual use cases? Does it bring good value proposition? And do they have an actual team behind it that tries to develop and prove the use case, right? Because again, the last thing we'd want to happen is someone coming to us with a great business plan, great open idea, say, my token's going to change the financial system in this manner, but in actual fact, it's not the case. They don't have the capabilities or the experience to execute those plans, right? We haven't really listed any new tokens that is not considered major tokens. We only have the most traditional 5 crypto, which is Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, XRP, and Bitcoin Cash. We have received lots of proposals to consider other coins, but for us internally, we look at these things first. It's a lot more stringent than other exchanges, but again, I think our market positioning is mass market. We want to make sure that we don't introduce something that's overly risky. And the crypto itself, like Bitcoin, is risky by nature already because of the price volatility. That's at least our criteria. And if it fulfills our criteria, we will obviously then have to write an application to the SC. And there are a host of, again, requirements that the SC has prescribed to make sure that these tokens fulfilled before they would even consider it on the table, right? And again, these are the questions they'll ask about. They also ask things like, are there actual adoption? Are there demand? Do they have actual use cases? What value proposition do they bring? Because again, the last thing they want to do is exchanges like LUNO being irresponsible and a naughty kid, right? Chinchai creating some random coin or with other people to create some random coin that has no use cases and introduce to Malaysians, and the price might just go zero the next day.
Indeed, that is the biggest worry. To me, you want to tokenize yourself, it sounds like what Malaysian would say, short sendiri. So you cannot sendiri, short sendiri. Go. Okay, but good explanation. At least we know roughly the process that LUNO takes in order. The answer is yes, you can tokenize your own token, but do you need to? And these are the risk element involved. Yeah, well done. Now, the next issue, this is a little bit sensitive, and I could understand if you would like to evade answering this, David, because of the fact that it's involving a third government agency, which is LHDN. There have been some questions here asking whether LUNO does share information and account to LHDN. Do you want to answer this, David? No issue, we can move on.
It's a fairly common question.
Okay.
So don't worry about it. Yeah, you're not the first person who asked me this. Lots of customers will actually email us and ask us directly, right? Which we're happy to answer. Our stand is, unless we're compelled legally to provide this information, we don't provide this information to any government agencies, right? And usually the situation is if there's an investigation on a customer, we are legally compelled, whether we like it or not, to provide those information to LHDN or even the police or any other government agencies or enforcement authorities. So if someone is under investigation, and for LHDN, for them to issue a letter to us, they need to actually state the law, state the reasons and stuff like that, because they also want to make sure that their legal ground is solid. We then are compelled to provide those information. So that's the usual scenarios where we have to provide. For now, our usual cooperation is actually just with the police, because there are lots of scams in Malaysia, unfortunately. And police do come to us occasionally on a criminal investigation that they're conducting. And in those instances, we are compelled to provide information to the police.
Yes, that's to echo David, as a practicing lawyer, that is accurate, because once LHDN send a letter to you with the relevant notice under the certain provisions, then that company is compelled to give, failure of which the company gets into trouble, right? So I remember recently there was an allegation of fraud of a company. I use the word allegation because I don't see any recorded cases on it yet. This fintech emas or something like that. So the group of disgruntled victims came to see me, and in fact they met a few other lawyers to take up the case. So it was very interesting to see the facts, to try and see how we go about. And this issue came up that if you are being compelled to give the information, will you be able to answer? Yes. So that was one of the actions that I think the group were taking to compel the fintech emas people to produce. So anyway, thanks for answering the question. So basically the answer is no, I won't simply give out your information to LHDN unless I'm compelled to. That will be the official answer from LUNO. Now, moving there, very good questions we have here. We've got another one more here about trading. There's I see a comment here. If I gain 100% and withdraw my initial capital, then only trade on my capital gain. Oh, I think this is in the context of tax just now, because you were asking about, are you talking about tax just now, David? You want to say anything about that before we?
A lot of comments here. Can you repeat that question, Richard?
I'm trying to find a question again because just the page moved. I think the I think it's a man. I apologize if it's a lady.
Maybe you can invite him to just ask verbally.
James Jr. Hi, James. Are you there, James?
Hi. Yes, I'm here.
James, you posed a good point here. How if I gain 100% and withdraw my initial capital, Then I assume you're talking about tax just now, right, James?
Yes, correct. Yes, I am.
Oh, you want to maybe post your
you
questions to David? Yeah, all yours.
Elaborate your question, James, so I can get a better context.
Yes. So you mentioned that on tax, particularly, there could be two ways. One would be an investor, and another one would be those who do chart analysis, like day trading. So what if I have pumped in capital and I've gained 100%, withdraw my capital, and only trade on capital gains? How would that work in pertain to tax?
So again, there's two part, right? The first is, if you invest, you've made 100% return, which is congratulations to you. That's fantastic. But that's a one-off gain. That's capital gain. It's not taxable because capital gains are not taxable in Malaysia, according to LHDN. But obviously, if you use those gains and you've started generating regular income by trading, and you have a methodology and a system that's very systematic that allows you to make consistent gains, then those gains that you make out of that 100%, that gain on the second letter transaction is taxable, and you should pay taxes for it. Does that answer your question, James?
Yes, but does this count on one-time withdrawal or multiple withdrawals? I mean, you have to liquidate them, right?
Yeah, I mean, once you liquidate them, then those are gains, right? And obviously, if you do your accounts, let's say today you make $100, tomorrow you make a $200, next day you make another $500, you total it for a whole month. When you do your whole income statement, and you declare, you can basically declare the whole sum total as an income, and you pay tax according to the income tax law.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
It's like you declaring your income tax on an annual basis, right? If let's say you have a salary, but you have a property that you derive regular income, so it falls under that, right? When you compute your income that you generate over the past 1 year from crypto trading, you total it up. Obviously, you then declare it as a taxable income, and then you pay tax from the income.
Okay, thank you. This is just to confirm, this is regardless of how many times you liquidate. Say you've accumulated for over 1 year and they're all in crypto, and finally you decide to liquidate them. So then the calculation will be based on there.
Yeah.
We think so. Yeah. Please take note that David is not a tax expert.
Okay, thank you very much.
But good question, James, because if there's a multiple issue, how? So good question. Good question.
Yeah.
Good luck trading, James. Good luck to you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Good luck. Good luck. May the force be with you. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Good question by James. David, there's a question here about when will LUNO allow the trading between crypto to crypto pair instead of only crypto to fiat pair only now? From Hong YC. Thank you, Hong YC. All yours, David.
Yeah, good question. We have no plans to introduce crypto to crypto trading pair. For one good reason, it's not permitted by regulation, because regulation doesn't allow local licensed exchanges to enable cross-border trade. And the moment we enable crypto to crypto pair trading, there's a potential that it can involve cross-border trading. So it's not something that we want to touch on, otherwise, the regulators will ask questions. So we have no plans to do that. And regardless, from an exchange business perspective, it's actually not in our advantage to have too many different pairs, because in order to give the best price to customers, we want to pool the liquidity as much as possible, right? So for example, if I introduce MYR BTC pair today, and I have MYR ETH pair today, I wouldn't want to have ETH BTC pair, because that might split liquidity from my two main pairs away into the crypto trading pair, right? And as a result, the price won't be great because there's not enough liquidity, there's a lack of supply and demand, and as such, there'll be slippages, which will not be in the best interest of the investors who always want to buy crypto at the best price possible. So if, let's say, overseas exchange trading, buying Bitcoin at $50,000, a lack of liquidity can result in either that BTC price being at 52 or 648, right? We would want to be in that position. So even as a business, it wouldn't make business sense to us for the investors.
Yep, good point. I just went to visit Facebook to see any comments. Most of it is like, yeah, man, hello, the kind of comments so far. No particular question yet. I continue searching on it now. Back to another question from Stan again. Stan asked another question earlier, and the timestamp is 2:38 p.m. about
Okay.
45 minutes ago. Stan asked, where is Malaysia's crypto ecosystem compared to other Southeast Asian countries in terms of development or acceptance by the regulators? So I just cut and paste here. Yeah. So I repeat, where is Malaysia? All yours, yeah, David.
Yeah. So Malaysia is actually considered one of the more advanced country in Southeast Asia already, right? FYI, just so you know, over the past 3 to 5 years, the first two regulators that introduced crypto regulation to regulate crypto exchanges is Thailand and Philippines. They started first. And then Malaysia happened. SC stepped in and introduced regulation because there's a lot of demand here, so they had to step in and do something about it. Singapore regulation came after. They basically had a Payment Services Act where crypto exchanges that want to operate in Singapore have to apply a license under that Payment Services Act. Indonesia also came right after. So Indonesia regulator, the regulator that regulates cryptocurrency is called BAPEPI. They are the commodity regulator in Indonesia. They take charge of regulating cryptocurrency in Indonesia. So we are not the first, but we are definitely not the last either. And we're definitely faster than Singapore. And so I can proudly say it out loud. We are faster than Singapore because the SC gave exchanges like LUNO, Synergy, Tokenized a license back in 2019, 2020, whereas the MAS in Singapore only just gave license, or rather a conditional license this year, literally just a couple of months back. So we are quite okay. We're doing quite well. In terms of adoption, I think Malaysia, again, it's all regulation dependent, but I would say that Malaysians are actually quite far ahead compared to our counterparts in Singapore or even in Indonesia. As an example, I was just telling Richard yesterday, a year ago, I wouldn't even imagine having a lot of people investing in crypto. A lot of people don't understand crypto. But yesterday we gave a talk in I don't know what I can name them, but a tier consulting firm, IT consulting firm in KL. We had 500 people dialing into the call just to understand crypto. And we did a quick survey during the webinar. 40% of them actually own crypto already. So we're really way far ahead compared to our peers in the SCA region.
Okay. So I think this will be our last question for today. I'm sorry if I can't answer all. Some were, of course, a direct question. Why is LUNO charging more? Why is so I suppose that's a commercial question. I leave it to David and team to answer the commercial issues. But let's try to talk about regulatory and governance and legality issues. I see a question here by C. Chen. Currently in crypto, there are cases of airdrops if you're holding some particular tokens in your wallet. For example, if you're holding Ethereum, ETH, I think it's Ethereum, and ETH is planning to give airdrop for those holding ETH when ETH version 2.0 is out. Will LUNO users holding ETH in LUNO wallet be entitled for such an airdrop?
We don't. The quick answer is that we don't support any airdrop. If you want to receive that airdrop, again, I need to verify the authenticity of that news. But assuming that it's true, if you want to receive that airdrop, then I would suggest you to move your Ethereum to a wallet that supports that airdrop. So, and I'm sure, and I think it's best that you check on the Ethereum website, because I'm sure there's a list of wallet that they've really listed there where you can receive airdrop if you move your tokens there. But just be careful to make sure you verify that information. If indeed Ethereum Foundation are doing it, then make sure that you use the wallet that they recommend and not any other wallet, because I'm sure that they have partners that they've already cooperated with, reached out to do this together.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. I think LUNO, David, you want to share your LUNO contact? What's your email? Is there, or just go to LUNO look for you?
You can just go to LUNO look for me, or you can connect me on LinkedIn. That's fine too. So if you have any questions regarding the LUNO product, obviously drop an email. Our email at support@luno.com is available. And we have a team of experts who is always responding to those emails.
Okay. Just a quick one. I need to just do this advertising, David. This coming Friday, we are having this talk. You can see here the talk on the regulation of the artificial intelligence, the law. Now, as we go into the Industrial Revolution 4.0, I think you can see that there is a great understanding of algorithms and all this. So we've got Dr. Lau Pinlian, a Malaysian, who will be sharing her knowledge about what's. She's based in UK at Brunel University, and she'll be speaking on this on Friday. So if any of you are interested in this area, just feel free to go to my firm's Facebook page or LinkedIn page, or just email us. We can give you the link, and then you can register on Zoom. This will be held on Friday night to cater to the fact that Dr. Lau is in England, who's about 7 hours behind us. So next talk coming up is the regulation of AI, the EU draft law, where she'll be sharing with us what's happening in the EU. Okay, so there is my short advertisement. I feel like I'm in a cinema on this. Now, maybe David, you would like to wrap things up and summarize today's talk before maybe we can take a quick group photo and then we can call it a day. David, all yours to summarize?
What's there to summarize? I'm not quite sure what's there to say. But I think I'll probably preach the things that I always preach whenever I go on a public talk. There are a lot of opportunities in crypto, definitely. But again, you must always do your research. Never fear missing out. This is what we have a terminology for it. Don't FOMO. Never fear missing out. If you hear of a crypto token that's appreciated in value, whether in LUNO or other platforms, I think it's always important and prudent to understand what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And when I say do your research, literally I'm meaning you should read up on the token, look at their website, check if the founders are real. Just because someone has a picture with a name there doesn't mean it's real. You have to be able to communicate with the person and the team to make sure that there are indeed people behind those projects developing those things. Understand what they're doing, what have they been doing over the past 6 months or 1 year, and how have the performance of the business impacted the coin. I think that's important. It's like you doing stock investment, right? If you want to invest in a stock, you have to understand the company behind it and what they're doing, right? If you don't do that, then the likelihood of you going in today, suddenly when the price tank the next day, because it's very volatile, right? There's a lot of new money coming in, new investors coming in who have no clue. The moment they pull the money out because of FOMO, then you might get spooked away and leave the next minute and lose your money.
Yeah.
So the long-term approach, do your homework, and please invest safely. That's important.
Nice one, David. Well, ladies and gentlemen, David spoke at our webinar last year. So if you would like to listen to last year's talk and today's talk again later, number one, you can visit our YouTube page. Just go to YouTube and search for Richard W. Chambers. You can find. We're the only firm there with Richard W. Chambers. And you can look for his talk, which happened last year in July. I can search down. We've got about 100 over videos in that page. And then, of course, there's a podcast. If you look at Spotify, you look for Richard W. Chambers again, you can find David's podcast where he spoke. I think, David, you spoke to my ex-colleague, like Brian Boo at the time. Yeah. Where it's a good podcast. Good to switch on a podcast while you're driving your car to listen. And today's talk will be left on Facebook, but we will be downloading, from Facebook to re-upload and archive on our YouTube by, I think, Monday. So you can go on and watch there again if you want to pick up any news. If our firm, we conduct this kind of webinar all the time. We invite people like Dr. Lau Pinlian next week, David this week. We have had talks on AI, gene editing, sports matters, company matters, litigation, employment, conveyancing matters. We try to conduct this kind of talks to educate people, to help people, to refine your knowledge. It's our community effort, David, like what we're doing today. And I want to thank David, who's doing this FOC, pro bono. He could have been anywhere else on Saturday. He's very busy with his kids, but he spent a few hours with us, and we've been preparing on this talk for a few weeks with him. So I want to thank you again, David, and I suspect we will do this again in the near future. And to all of you, terima kasih for logging on. I'm not sure whether we want to take a photo because everyone don't want to switch on the camera. I think we'll just end it here. And all I can say to all of you, please stay safe. Wash your hands still, despite everything. Take your vaccine, and hopefully we'll be able to meet face-to-face in a proper seminar one day. Take care of yourself, and all of you can slowly exit from this room now. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. David, you can stay first. David, yeah, stay first. Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. And I'll end the live program. Those who are on Facebook, thank you for following us. Take care of yourself. Thank you for following us on Facebook. Bye-bye. I'll stop the live stream now.